have a room full of people, which is a bit unusual. So you may hear a little bit of extra chatter, but we'll do the best we can here. What would happen if I did that? Nope, that's not what I want to do. Oh, wait a minute. What if I pick this one? Oh, maybe. But it doesn't give me the one I want. Okay. We'll just pretend this works. It may not be ideal, but it'll get us through.
Ready to go?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We will come to order then. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Pecky, if you could call the roll, please.
Figure.
Here.
Mr. Forbes.
Here.
Mr. Holman. Mr. Scheller.
Here.
Mrs. Pecky here. Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Here. Thank you. Dr. Albert, can you verify publication and meeting, please?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Unfinished business. Item A, consider approval of a revision to the Winter Fans in the Stands plan to include one person from the visiting team to do the live stream recording for the visiting district as presented.
I don't know if you need to see that document.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve, consider approval for approval of revisions to Winter Fans in the Stands plan to include one person from the visiting team to the live stream recording for the visiting district as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Scheller. Do I have a second?
Johnson, I'll second that.
Okay, second by Mr. Johnson. Discussion?
And curiosity, I think I heard about it during football, some schools were letting like senior parents come. And then they were kind of, the other, when you went there, then they were kind of letting senior parents go there. I heard that happening at all districts. I don't know. I was wondering if that was anything we would have think about or not think about.
Been using all the tickets on the, like for the volleyball games inside, pretty much.
I see that both Mr. Wolfgram and Mrs. Millard are on. So can you speak to, the question was from Mr. Seeger, have we been using all the tickets that were allocated? Because the question from Mr. Scheller was reciprocating to senior parents. So visiting and home senior parents would have an option to attend and do, so then the question was, do we have the capacity for that?
Dawn, are you there? You've been monitoring the exact number that have been consumed a little more closely than I have.
Yes, hi, I'm here. Typically we use the kids or the parents use most of their tickets, but many times we don't have 50 students that attend. I think the most students that we've ever had attend was 37, and that was the homecoming football game.
So there would be room in the gym for more, in your opinion.
So Dan, you did the capacity. The question from Mr. Forbes was, is there capacity in the gym to do what Mr. Scheller was suggesting?
And if he's asking to see if we can get senior parents, are we saying from the opposing side, Mr. Scheller, or are you saying,
Yeah.
I understand the question correctly?
Yeah.
Yes, he said yes, in case you didn't hear
Okay.
that.
As we look at the potential maximums, is on the screen, we've got 157 and 149 for the two largest events, boys and girls basketball. We would like to keep it to 200 or less for capacity, so it does allow for additional persons, but I guess I would question the concern of bringing, again, outside community members to the building. I'm not sure if that's a concern of the board, that if we have people from other communities coming on in, is that something that they feel is worth the risk?
So the concern, the original reason for home-only fans was so that we weren't doing anything that might increase community spread. So the kids are exposed to their parents and their family units, and those are the folks that are coming to their games. If we bring people in from other communities, then we do increase the chance that we're potentially bringing in community spread that's unknown to us, such as what happened at Iola's football game last night or last week that ended their football season.
Did we have any problems when we had the playoff game? That would be similar to that, right? When we had the playoff game for volleyball, we had old schools. Any issues with?
Dawn, the question from Mr. Seeger was, how did it go when we hosted the playoff game with Chayocton for volleyball?
It went quite well, actually. We were able to have the Chayocton fans enter. Once they got into the building, they were able to enter the gym on the far side of the gym and head to those bleachers. And then we had our Manawa fans enter the gym through the door closest to the fitness center entrance. So we were able to kind of keep everyone separated in that way, if that's what you mean.
So Dawn went to some extra trouble. She had, I was there before the game. I didn't go to the game, but she had cones set up that kind of led the visiting group and really kept the two groups totally separate. The only place they might encounter one another might be if they used a restroom or something of that nature, but otherwise it was structured so they stayed completely apart.
I just heard, like, the school bit, but that made a lot of sense. I understand that,
I'm not sure how many other schools are doing that though, because this was raised when Spencer invited senior parents, but there is absolutely no guarantee that any other school district is going to reciprocate. So we could invite parents from other districts, but that does not mean that our parents are going to be allowed to go to their school. So we may be increasing our risk with zero reward.
Or we may start it and other people may want to follow.
That might be a question for Spencer. Spencer started it. How many other school districts reciprocated and allowed fans? I mean, that would maybe be something that Dawn could find out.
I could look into that. At this time, I don't know of any other schools that did it after Spencer invited us.
Well, since we're talking about the basketball season, correct?
It would be all winter sports. For us, that's basketball and wrestling, but
So
yeah.
now you could probably talk to everybody in the conference, get their opinion, and they could all agree on it or disagree on it or have their opinion.
So the ADs just had their meeting today, or was it yesterday, Dawn?
We had a meeting this morning and there were a couple of school districts that, for example, Amherst had not allowed visiting fans for the fall sports. but they have decided that they are going to now. They're letting two fans from home and two fans from visiting. Each player from each team will get 2 tickets. However, Rushholt was allowing anyone and everyone to come to their football games, and the other way, they are now not having any fans for their winter season.
Is that even home fans too, Dawn, or is that
Yes,
just
yes, it's home fans also for Rushholt.
no fans at all, period?
No fans.
Wow.
Mr. Bortle has us filling out a like a grid of some sort where each AD is going to be taking it back and filling it out as to what their protocol is for the winter sports. So we are working on that right now.
Say, Dawn, would it be too late to make further decisions on this at the November 16th meeting? So if by then you'd have the survey results that were
Right,
mentioned?
by then we would, and we wouldn't have any high school games before that. Currently, we're having middle school games at home. We had one this past week where we didn't invite any, or we didn't allow any visiting fans, but it doesn't, I mean, there were several, I would say there were 18 people that watched the live stream. So several of those were visiting fans. So I guess if we allowed it for the high school, we would have to look at doing that for middle school also.
Well, he was only talking about senior parents.
Oh,
So
senior
that-
parents, okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't affect middle schoolers then.
Nope, it sure wouldn't.
So would that be beneficial to postpone that part of the decision to November 16th?
If you're asking, are you asking me that question?
Just floating it out there, I think.
Okay. I think that it would give us more time to look at what other schools are doing, if that's the route we want to go. We want to look at what other schools are doing. I'm not opposed to that idea.
I'm guessing you're probably looking at 20 people. You know, if you did 2 per senior, I mean, max, you're probably gonna have 10 senior kids on a team. So,
Oh, max, sure.
right, you know, I don't think it's gonna change a whole lot of stuff. So I think if you really wanted to do it, you could almost do it. You know what I mean? If you would like to check, I would say go ahead, but.
Did the WIAA say that if we give 3 tickets to our fans that are competitors, then that's the number we have to give to the visiting team?
Nope, they did not say that. That was just for the playoff game. That was the rule that we had to adhere to for playoffs.
Okay. So when it's playoffs, it has to be equal to both teams,
Yes,
but not,
correct.
okay.
It's not part of the motion or anything, so we just keep checking it out.
Yep. So Dawn, we'll put this on the November 16th agenda, and if you could share the survey results when they become available, I'll put that in the board packet too.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're back to the motion again.
Yes, and the motion was to consider approval of a revision to allow the one person from the visiting team to do the live stream recording. Any further discussion? We probably do need to do a roll call vote, don't we?
Because of the audience members.
Members.
Yes.
So, Mr. Seeger,
Aye.
Mr. Forbes,
Aye.
Mr. Scheller, Mrs. Petke, Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
and then an aye from Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion carries by a roll call vote. Item B, consider approval of a calendar change in instructional hours and professional development time for teachers as presented. And so we have received a memo regarding this.
So right now we already have students at home for the week after the Thanksgiving break and the week after the winter break. So we were looking for ways to provide extra support for teachers to be able to work on some of their teaching and learning strategies that they want to implement. So we were looking at 2.5 days of professional development. And if we did those 2.5 days, both at the Thanksgiving time and at the winter break, it doesn't inconvenience parents because either they've already started to plan for childcare or they'll be doing that shortly. And so that would give teachers that time to work on things. And that's one of the things the teachers in their survey have more than anything have said. We need time, to slow down, take a deep breath, get caught up on, some of these new virtual strategies. And so the gift of time is probably the most valuable gift that could be given right now. So, and this method didn't interrupt parents because we know childcare is a real challenge as well when the children are home, especially the younger ones. We're not sure yet if we would actually need a waiver on hours of instruction, because there may be alternative ways that the kids may still be doing work at home, even though they're not interacting with the teacher on that day. They may be doing assignments and activities the teachers have given. So those are some things we're still working through. Although we did see the impact of both elementary and secondary instructional minutes. The high school, it's much tighter than it is at the elementary because fewer hours of instruction are required at the elementary level. So they have more wiggle room at the elementary. If we did need to do the waiver of instructional hours, we could do that at the November 16th board meeting. There we'd have a public hearing again like we did the last time. And then we would, during the board meeting, then be able to approve the hours of instructional minutes waiver if there was no public dissent around that idea. So, but the step one would be, would you approve changing the calendar and allowing for 2.5 PD days the week after Thanksgiving break and the week after the winter break?
Only 9 minutes, 9 hours, short on 37 to 12 for this, right? 11:37 is required and 11:26. They're really close. You can wait this for that 9 hours.
Correct. But if we think about it, we also don't have any wiggle room from the standpoint, for example, let's say that we were able to have school some winter day in person, but we needed a 2-hour delay because, maybe it was one of those late developing snowstorms where the plows don't come through until the early morning hours. So, for example, Mr. Wolfgram at the secondary might need a 2-hour delay. So there are those incidental things, and he would be out of wiggle room. So yes, you're correct. We're not too far off in terms of being short. But if this idea takes off, the teachers may need more of this professional development time in second semester. So this kind of gets them through first semester. But if it works well for them and they're liking it, they might want to do it again. And again, we don't have any more hours to give without the waiver.
Can you put some kind of instructional video that they have to watch that would count for time, for the students? Or no?
Yes, so that's one of the ideas that we were talking about. Other districts take attendance not by seeing the face of the person on the screen. The students just have to submit an assignment that day, so they may be busy working at home, and the way they prove that they were engaged in school is they submit their assignment electronically that day. It doesn't mean the teacher has to look at it that day or grade it that day, but they'd be able to see by the timestamp when it came in. So,
I mean, even if that
So,
has to be
yeah.
for the high school level or something like that, and then the grade school, we can
yep,
do something different, but.
absolutely, that is definitely an option. We haven't, as a team, as an administrative team or the teacher team, had a chance to talk about those strategies yet. We will next week, I hope so. But it is possible we wouldn't need the waiver if we could count those days as instruction if the students were actually at home working on something.
Or if it works,
Mhm.
then we don't have to, they'll get their time. It doesn't have to probably be a full
Mhm.
day. Much as they want, as hard as they want to work on it, they can kind of have cuts through that vacation, not vacation time, but around that time anyway, so that
Mhm.
gives them some time to do some other things.
Mhm. Good point.
Need a motion to,
Through Charlotte, make a motion to approve the calendar change in instructional minutes and professional development for teachers.
I have a motion by Mr. Scheller. Do I have a second?
Luke's here, I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Seeger. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, again, we'll proceed by a roll call vote. Mr. Seeger?
Aye.
Mr. Forbes?
Aye.
Mr. Scheller?
Aye.
Mrs. Petke?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
And it is an aye from Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion carries by a roll call vote. New business, item A, consider approval of the Miracle on Bridge Street Committee to run a reverse parade using the middle school, high school parking lot and driveway loop around the back of the school as presented.
And I do believe the community member proposing the idea, Mrs. Lane, is on. If you have questions for her this evening.
I did receive some comments from a community member, and that individual has asked to remain anonymous. But those comments are, quote, "I do not recommend holding the parking lot parade at the school. I say this because I really want our kids in school. If Manawa holds an event that gathers people, I feel it will directly affect our area's numbers. If we can condone this behavior, we should have our kids, all of our kids in school full time."
Yeah, they're gonna have roads, and they're gonna be spaced out 20, 30 feet apart off something. So,
Well, it's still gonna be a drive-by anyway, so I don't see why that would affect anything.
group of people like representing the business in a closer down area, do you think that they would all be around each other in a normal day?
I believe that we have to do whatever we can for our community, because everything's kind of, I don't think my thoughts are that it will affect.
We would be looking for motion.
Make the motion to consider approval of the Miracle on Bridge Street Committee to run a reverse parade using the middle school, high school parking lot and driveway loop around the back of the school as presented.
I have a motion by Mrs. Petke. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Forbes. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, by roll call vote, Mr. Seeger,
Aye.
Mr. Forbes,
Aye.
Mr. Scheller,
Aye.
Mrs. Petke,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
and it is an aye from Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion carries. Next meeting dates, Board of Education retreat immediately following the special meeting here in the boardroom. November 9th, Curriculum Committee, 5 o'clock. November 9th, Finance, 5:30. November 11th, Policy and Human Resources, 5 o'clock. November 16th, Board of Education, 7 o'clock. November 17th, Buildings and Grounds, 5:30. Looking for a motion to adjourn. That was Mr. Scheller? Okay. Do I have a second?
That's right.
I'll take Mrs. Petke. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Seeger?
Aye.
Mr. Forbes?
Aye.
Mr. Scheller?
Aye.
Mrs. Petke?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? There's an aye for Mrs. Johnson as well. Motion to adjourn carries 5:28 PM.